In the next 24 hours, I'm going to be expertising one of the following commanders: Ragnar Prime, Hokyubing, or Zugelian. But there is a twist. You get to decide which commander we are going to max. After 24 hours, I'm going to read every single comment under this video, count all your votes, and spam our precious sculptures. Right, so first let me explain why we have only 24 hours. And the reason is actually quite simple: a will to skill event. Because if Ragnar Prime gets the majority of the votes and I'm going to invest on this commander, I want to do it before this event ends so that we can get a little bit of an extra value. And in this image, I'm going to list every pros and cons that comes up to my mind for each march. So please let me know in the comment section which commander you're choosing and why. Without further ado, let's start with Ragnar Prime and Scipio Prime. Right, so to me, these are the general pros for my account of this march. Number one, this march has pretty much everything. Actually, the first and second pro are quite similar, I'm just realizing that. But they have best of both worlds. They have insane amount of damage and they have decent tankiness. I mean, the tankiness compared to damage is not that high, but still, they are not squishy, right? They have extra stats, they have defense, health, normal damage reduction, skill damage reduction. So they definitely have best of both worlds. And on top of that, of course, regarding the damage, like they have insane amount of damage, especially Ragnar Prime. But Scipio does also have 30% health debuff. So this march is like, it should perform really well. Another benefit is that Scipio is a very good low investment because my plan is to use Scipio as 5551. I actually don't have enough sculptures to expertise both. I can only expertise one of them, but since Scipio is such a good investment at 5551, I think it shouldn't be a problem because my plan is, even if I had the sculptures, my plan is not actually expertising Scipio. If you want me to go for Ragnar Prime, I will go with expertise Ragnar, pair him with a 5551 CPO until we see the next infantry commanders. And if that infantry commander is better than CPO and pairs so well with Ragnar Prime, then I'm going to say, okay, whatever, we wasted about 390 sculptures. It's not the end of the world. But if that commander is not better than CPO Prime, or let's say a smite damage commander, meaning that he doesn't pair so well, like there's not a lot of synergy between Ragnar Prime and smite damage commanders, and only after that I'm going to go ahead and expertise Scipio. And another benefit of this march is just, since I'm going up to 2 infantry marches, I do already have an infantry march, which is William Wallace and Liu Che. I'm going to get more value from my civilization buffs, special units, and my city skin. Because in KVK at this moment, I'm playing with France civilization, and if I invest on a second infantry march, which if you don't know, France is an infantry civilization, they have infantry special troops, and from that we are going to get more benefit because we are just using 2 infantry marches. However, this is also one of the cons, and I will explain. Now, the first one is, since it is our secondary infantry march, they can only have quote-unquote secondary equipment. Let me show you real quick. Now, this is the equipment that I have on my William Wallace and Liu Che march. However, that is my secondary equipment, and surely it's not looking good. I mean, most likely I can get the blueprints until our next KVK fighting starts, and we do have the materials, so we can make it a little bit better, but obviously not even close to this one. Long story short, I just don't have great equipment for this march. Now back to the image, the second con is 2 infantry marches too soon, meaning that I will be using a lot of infantry on the field. This means if we launch infantry rallies or if we need infantry garrison, most likely I won't be able to fill them, because if I do, like I barely have enough troops to go up to 2 marches. And if I do fill them, then I will be out of troops. So almost like there is no point of going up to 2 infantry marches if I won't be able to use them. So I will either spend a lot of speed ups to train more infantry, which is something that I don't want to because of that stupid Zenith of Power rank 11. I lost so many speed ups and I will need them in this KVK to heal my troops. Or as I said, I will be able to not reinforce rallies or garrisons with my infantry. And one more major downside about going up to 2 infantry marches or 2 marches from the same troop type too quickly is that in Rise of Kingdoms, it is not very wise, unless you are a purist for a certain troop type, it is not very wise to go up to 3 marches from the same troop type. And if I go up to 2 infantry at this moment, like this early, because maximum number of marches, infantry marches that I will be using, even after let's say 1.5 years, it's going to be 2 marches, period. And because of that, every single infantry commander they release from now on is going to be a replacement. This means these 4 commanders, after this investment, one of them will be benched for sure whenever there is a better commander for infantry. Because this early, in our first ever season of Conquest, we are already going up to 2 infantry marches, and that's the maximum that I would go. And due to that, every next infantry commander is going to, best case scenario, is going to replace my existing ones. That means we will bench one of our expertise commanders. The next one is, of course, movement speed. There are a lot of small adjustments that you can do to fix or let's say increase the movement speed of your troops. However, each of them means that you are sacrificing something else. Maybe you are sacrificing some important talents to get a more movement speed on the talent tree. Maybe you are going for tier 5 iconic boots so that you can get extra 10% movement speed. This means instead of investing your blueprints, your materials, whatever, to that iconic tier 5, you can just get pretty much all other equipment to iconic tier 2, for example. So yes, you can increase your movement speed, but to do that, you need to sacrifice something every single time. And the final pro is that we just don't have enough sculptures even to get CPO to 5551. So what I need to do, I need to buy dailies every day until we start fighting. And that I think will give me a 5551 configuration, like almost for sure. But as I said, I'll need to spend quite a bit. So these are the pros and cons of this Ragnar Prime and Scipio March. Now let's move on to QB and Joan. Right, so pros of this March. Number one, we already have a 5515 Joan of Arc, and right now I'm using him with Minamoto. So if I invest on whole cubing, it is going to level up our March pretty massively, and it's a great use for our Joan of Arc. Number two, equipment is somewhat ready. Let me show you real quick. This is my current cavalry equipment. Yes, it's not as good as my main infantry march equipment. However, compared to our Ragnar Prime CPU option, it is way better than our secondary infantry set, and it is going to get way better because we are waiting for KVK weapon and KVK helm. The third benefit is this is an insane march for ruins and altar. Not just this march, but a whole cubing march in general. Because the thing about whole cubing is that it's from his expertise, right? The reason why it's an insane march is his expertise. It says when you are attacking another troop on the map, which is basically what you do all the time in open field fighting, your troop triggers autumn wind effect and recovers a portion of its slightly wounded units, healing factor 3000 whenever it defeats an enemy troop. This 3000 healing makes you fight in the ruins, in the altars for so long, basically almost like longer than anyone, without needing to go back and refresh your march. Remember, the time that you will be fighting in those places is quite limited. And instead of wasting time by going back to your city, then coming back again, blah, 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 you can simply stay there for pretty much, as I said, longer than anyone. So as I said, I think it is simply one of the best marches that you can use for ruins and altars. And on top of that, it is a cavalry march, of course. It is fast. This means we don't care about tier 5 iconic boots. We don't care about like movement speed talents or movement speed accessories. We don't care about any of it. And the last one, that is more like a PvE benefit. Again, because of his healing, he is the perfect commander to chain barbarians. At this moment, I am using my Richard I with my 5111 Zugeliang. Yes, it does have the two things that you want from a chaining march. It has a sustain and it has the circular AoE damage. However, Richard is he's so slow, and the time it takes to kill those barbarians is also so long. But instead, if you go with whole cubing instead of Richard, then you are going to move faster and you are going to kill a lot faster. This means, let's say you have 2 hours to chain some barbarians. You are going to be chaining way more barbarians if you use whole cubing instead of Richard. So that is another major benefit. But of course, it is more like a PvE. Well, you could say that it's a PvP benefit because in the end, chaining is giving you more gems, more resources, more speed ups, and you're going to use them for PvP fighting. But let's say this is a PvE benefit because basically we are fighting against barbarians. Now let's move on to cons of this march. And to be honest, it's not a lot. Right, there it is. Cavalry is next on the list, next on the release cycle, and that is a con. However, that is a minor con. The reason why it's minor con is because, as I said, for my infantry, at the end, when we go up to 5 marches, we are going to go with most likely 2 infantry, 2 cavalry, and 1 archer march. And since it's going to be my only proper cavalry march, my first march, even if cavalry is the next one on the list, I can still gather a lot of sculptures until that commander is here. And since I'll already have my Minamoto ready, then I can simply invest on that commander and go up to 2 cavalry marches with the combination of new commander, Joan of Arc, whole cubing, and Minamoto. Of course, Minamoto is going to be a placeholder commander, a temporary commander, until we invest on another meta cavalry commander, but still, I think it is not the end of the world. However, it is still a con. Even though it's minor, it is still a con, because when the cavalry is released, if it's a really good commander, then this forces me to go up to 2 cavalry marches as soon as possible. The second con is Mina benched too soon. Now, I know Minamoto is nowhere near being a meta commander, especially in Season of Conquest. However, we have him expertise, we have him double relic, and the thing about KVK 4 is that you don't actually get matched with random kingdoms. The oldest kingdom is 3387, and the newest kingdom is 3415. So what they did was, they are basically matching all kingdoms that are playing the KVK4 for the very first time. And because of that, I know in KVK5 it doesn't work like that. However, just for KVK4, we might still use Mina, right? He's not the worst commander in the game. So that's why I think that is one of the cons that we are benching Mina too soon. The other con of this march is that it only has one AoE. It's from Joan of Arc. Yes, Joan of Arc casts her skill twice, her AoE skill twice, with a 10-second cooldown, but still, we only have AoE on one of the commanders. We don't have AoE on Hokubing. Even though his single target damage is crazy, still, it is not AoE. And the final one is a possible anti-synergy option. Because the thing about Hokubing and Joan, QB fires off his skills super quickly because of his lower rage requirement, 850. But the double cast of Joan of Arc is, as I said, has a 10-second cooldown. So what happens is, let's say when you pair Joan of Arc with Nevsky, you do the first skill cycle, Joan of Arc hits double. The next skill cycle, Joan of Arc hits single because his double cast is on cooldown. But on the third one, it double casts again because cooldown is over. However, sometimes with Hokubing, the raid cycle is just so fast is that you may need to wait for one more extra skill cycle, because when the time comes, Joan of Arc's skill was still on cooldown. Like, it cycled so fast, so there is a possible anti-synergy between them, but based on my discussions with cavalry mains, even if it happens, it doesn't happen too frequently, so it's not game-breaking or anything. So I would say it is, again, a minor con instead of a major one. Now let's move on to our Zhuge Liang and Hermann march. And the first pro is that, to some, it is the best march in the game. The amount of damage they deal is crazy. It is also one of the other pros. It says insane amount of AoE and debuff. And this march is not going to get outdated soon. Yes, people are not very hyped about Shajar, but they're not going to just throw Mighty Healing and True Damage away. I think we will have at least one more cycle for archers with Mighty Healing and True Damage. And Shajar is one of the most recent commanders, so we still have months until the next archers. And as I said, the next archer is most likely going to be another Mighty Healing True Damage commander. So your high skill damage, high AoE debuff archer march is not going to get outdated soon. So basically they have a lot of damage, the best debuff in the game, and they're going to be here at least for another year, that is for sure. Now the cons of this march is the first one, no equipment, lol. I mean, that is true, I have no archer equipment whatsoever. However, I do have some blueprints, I do have some materials, so if we do invest on this march, I think the best case scenario we can get something similar to this, maybe a little bit better. I need to count my materials, but obviously we won't be able to get a full 6 pieces legendary set, it is impossible. But if we start crafting, like, we could get a decent set. However, that is still a con in my opinion, because if I just go ahead and start crafting archer equipment from scratch, this means I won't be able to upgrade any of my existing gear, at least for a while. The next con on the list is lack of sculptures, no daily option as well. If you remember the con of infantry march, a CPO we don't have enough sculptures to get him 5551 after we expertise Ragnar Prime. However, we have the option to spend money and purchase his sculptures from the daily chest. But for Hermann, unfortunately, we don't have that option. Hermann is, I think, at least as good as CPO at 5551, so he is, that could have been one of the pros. Like, he's a great low investment, just like CPO, but the problem on this one is that I will probably need to use it for at least for a couple of fights as a 5-5 something one, because as I said, I don't have enough sculptures to get him to 5551 at this moment, and we also don't have him available in the daily special offer, so I would just have to grind legendary universal sculptures and play with whatever I have until we have enough. The third one is, I think, super important. It is squishy and it is targeted instantly. Majority of the players plays in dot mode, and when you zoom out with a recent update, now you're able to see the troop type of that march, right? And whenever people see that archer icon, they target it instantly, including me. I do the same. If an archer march is close to murderable, that is my target, simple as that. To some people, for high spenders for example, it is not a big problem because they don't care about the resources, they don't care about the speed ups they're going to be using for healing. What they want is most amount of damage in the shortest amount of time, regardless of the healing cost. But for us, it is not very realistic. Yes, they have insane debuff, insane amount of AoE damage. However, they are squishy and they get targeted instantly. And the final con is pretty much exactly the same. Wait, oh my god, I'm so bad. With the infantry one, it is the movement speed. Again, you either need to sacrifice some talents to get extra movement speed or sacrifice 4 levels of iconics so that you can work on your boost to get it to level 5, because this march is super slow. And there is something else, as you can see, it says even accessory. Yes, because I know bunch of really good players who are not using, even though they do have the blueprint, they do have the materials, they are not using 2 legendary accessories on their archer march because they are that slow. Instead, they are using special talented Call of the Loyal just so that they can have a bit of extra movement speed. So basically, you are lacking either a Ring of Doom or a Horn of Fury just so that you can make this march move faster. So that is, in my opinion, one of the major cons for the archer march. And now let me make myself super small. These are, in my opinion, all the pros and cons of these 3 investment options: Ragnar Prime, Whole Cubing, and Zhuge Liang. So now what I want you to do is go to the comment section down below and tell me which commander we should invest, and please explain why. Please explain your reasoning. The reason why I want you to explain your reasoning, even though I already listed my pros and cons, is because another viewer could be in my shoes. Maybe they are debating between, I don't know, QB and Ragnar Prime or Ragnar and Zhuge Liang. So they can read the comments and they can also make up their minds. I see you on the next one. Thank you, regardless if you liked the video or not. But if you do, I will be super appreciated. And subscribe for more Rise of Kingdoms videos. Goodbye.